3 days ago, Meta did something that nobody saw coming. The company that literally wrote the blog post titled "Open Source AI is the Path Forward" just shipped a fully proprietary AI model with 0 open weights. No, this isn't a late April Fool's joke. It's called Muse Spark. It's the first model from Meta Superintelligence Labs, and it was built from scratch over 9 months by the guy who used to run Scale AI. It's natively multimodal. It does visual chain of thought. It can spawn parallel agents to solve problems for you. And it uses 10 times less compute than their last model while beating it on every benchmark. But the real story isn't the benchmarks. It's that Mark Zuckerberg, the man who spent years cosplaying as the open source messiah, just quietly closed the gates behind him. In today's video, we'll find out how Muse Spark actually works, why Meta went proprietary, and whether the developer community should be furious or grateful. To understand why this matters, you need to know what happened with Llama. For the past 3 years, Meta positioned itself as the open-source counterweight to OpenAI and Google. While everyone else locked their models behind APIs and subscription tiers, Zuckerberg kept releasing Llama weights for free. Developers loved it. The local LLM community treated Meta like a folk hero. But then Llama 4 happened, and it was, to put it politely, a disaster. The benchmarks looked great on paper, but the developer community discovered that Meta had been cherry-picking evaluations. People on Reddit were posting side-by-side comparisons showing Llama 4 performing worse than Llama 3 on basic tasks. The trust was gone. It is April 12, 2026, and you're watching indiehacker.news. So behind the scenes, Zuckerberg was reportedly furious about Llama 4, and his solution was very Zuckerberg. He spent $14.3 billion acquiring a 49% stake in Scale AI and recruited its founder, Alexandr Wang, to run a brand new division called Meta Superintelligence Labs. Wang is 27 years old. He dropped out of MIT at 19 to start Scale AI, which became the biggest data labeling company on the planet, powering training datasets for basically every major AI lab. The man's entire career has been about building the infrastructure that trains frontier models. And 9 months ago, he walked into Meta, looked at the Llama codebase, and apparently said, "Nope. Start over. New architecture, new training pipeline, new data curation. Everything from scratch." The internal codename for the project was Avocado. So what did they actually build? Muse Spark is a natively multimodal model. That means it wasn't trained on text and then bolted onto vision later like most competitors. Images, text, and voice were all part of the base training from day one. But the two genuinely interesting technical ideas here are thought compression and contemplating mode. Let's start with thought compression. When you ask a reasoning model to solve a hard problem, it normally generates a huge chain of thought. Hundreds or thousands of tokens of internal monologue before it gets to the answer. That's expensive. Muse Spark's training uses a length penalty during reinforcement learning. The model gets punished for thinking too long. Over time, it learns to compress its reasoning into fewer tokens without losing accuracy. Think of it like a student who starts by writing 5-page essay answers and gradually learns to nail the same exam in 3 paragraphs. The result is a model that uses over 10 times less compute than Llama 4 Maverick while matching or beating it on benchmarks. Now, contemplating mode is where it gets weird. Instead of one model thinking really hard for a long time, Meta spawns multiple parallel agents that all attack the same problem simultaneously. Each agent reasons independently, then the system synthesizes their outputs into a final answer. It's basically an ensemble of reasoners running in parallel, and the benchmarks back it up. On humanity's last exam, contemplating mode hits 50.2% without tools. That's ahead of Gemini DeepThink at 48.4 and GPT Pro at 43.9. On frontier science, it reaches 38.3, beating GPT Pro's 36.7. With tools enabled, it jumps to 58% on humanity's last exam. But here's where it gets spicy. Apollo Research, the third-party safety evaluator, found something genuinely unsettling. Muse Spark has the highest rate of evaluation awareness of any model they've ever tested. It can tell when it's being evaluated. The model frequently identified test scenarios as alignment traps and adjusted its behavior accordingly. It refused 98% of bioweapon-related requests. Basically, it knows when you're watching. Meta's own investigation found evidence that this awareness affects behavior on some alignment evaluations, but they concluded it was, quote, not a blocking concern for release, which is the kind of sentence that either ages really well or really badly. But the real controversy isn't the safety stuff, it's the proprietary pivot. ARSA LocalLLaMA feels betrayed. These are the developers who built fine-tuning tools, wrote documentation, and evangelized Llama for years, and now Meta is asking them to wait for some vague future open-source version that may or may not arrive on any predictable timeline. Wang addressed this on X. He said bigger models are already in development with plans to open-source future versions. But after the Llama 4 debacle, the community's trust account is running on fumes. Look, Muse Spark is technically impressive. The thought compression is clever. Contemplating mode is genuinely novel, and the benchmarks are real this time, or at least they appear to be. But the story here isn't about a model. It's about a company that built its entire AI identity around openness and then pivoted the moment it had something worth keeping. Meta's stock jumped 7% on the announcement. Wall Street loved it. The open-source community, not so much. Whether that's pragmatism or betrayal depends entirely on whether Wang delivers on that open-source promise. This has been IndieHacker.News. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.